When the COVID-19 pandemic hit the country, everyone was forced to think differently. How would they work? How would they take care of the kids? How would they spend their time? In other words, the pandemic raised the question of how do we adapt as best we can while being isolated from everything we know? For some, the answer to this question seemed pretty straightforward. Move to an online format for work, watch the kids at home, pick up a new hobby to kill time. But for others, the answer to this question wasn't so straightforward. And while most would agree that the pandemic took a lot of adjusting, there are some who had to work even harder to maintain a sense of normalcy. Mental health has always been a problem that needed to be addressed in this country. However, since the pandemic hit, more and more people are starting to show signs of mental health problems, and those already diagnosed with said problems were pushed to the limit emotionally. We often hear about these experiences and try to empathize, but it can be hard to relate for some, and especially hard to talk about it for the people affected. But I was fortunate enough to talk to a guy who knew firsthand what dealing with mental health in a global pandemic is like, and his experience of navigating it is just a small glimpse of how resilient people can truly be.
I want to start this off by saying I'm not a perfect person. I've done a lot of wrong in my life, and doing a lot better. I'm trying to get past those things. There's some things that still sit in the back of my mind that aren't exactly the greatest, but I think life's more about getting past what you've been through and working towards a better future. But today, I'm gonna open up my doors for you and let you see what the world's like through my perspective. Alright, so this is the basement. It is a shithole. Actually, it was hung. It was hung up here, but I got really upset one day. Punched it off the nail, and the nail bent. I don't know. I hit it pretty hard, but I'm not trying to boost. But yeah, I got really pissed off. Pollution is like it's bad for you. You know what I mean? It's like anything else. Too much of it can be a bad thing.
Right.
You know what I mean? There's a healthy amount. You know, but I ran away from my problems for so long. You know what I mean? Doing different substances, trying to figure out what just to get away from how I felt. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Mm-hmm.
And to me, it's like I'm at a place where it's like I'm done running. You know what I mean? And I know, like I said, in I have a fighter's mentality. Like I'm gonna get in that problem's face.
Right.
Well, what do you like? Not like physically, like what do you want? But it's like I'm gonna sit there and basically eat what it gives me. You know what I mean? And I know that sound like again it sounds weird, but it's like I'm not a runner. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't want to run from it anymore.
It's a lot easier said than done. Jake goes on to tell us that there are still times of doubt where he wants to run away from his problems, but he says he always ends up facing them in some form or another. This was mainly due to the isolating nature of quarantine, which forced him to look more inwardly and learn things about himself he never would have before. He also credits these moments for giving him the extra fire he needs to keep pushing forward and better himself in any way that he can.
You know what I mean? And I'll just be like, something will pop in your head. You know what I mean? I have ADHD, so like shit just pops all the time. But like, I'll be sitting there, and like my uncle, he passed away when I was in like senior year. You know what I mean? I was like 17, and it was hard. Like he was like a second dad, you know. And I remember one time I was just in my room, and I looked out my window, and behind there's an alley next to my house, and he taught me how to ride my bike in there. And I remember it just popped in my head. Like I just looked in the alley, and it was just like me as a kid riding my bike. You know what I mean? He kept telling me, keep going, keep going. I fell. I came in the house, and he came in, and like I wanted to run from that because I knew it was gonna cause like some pain. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? But like I just sat there, and I'm like one thing I need people to realize is like I'm a guy. You know what I mean? And guys are told can't cry, man up, blah blah. I did that forever, and that made it worse. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you just gotta let that shit out. I let that shit out. I sat there and cried. And I'm not scared to tell people I cry. That's not, there's nothing embarrassing. There's nothing wrong with that. But like, sometimes you just gotta let it out. You know what I mean? And, yeah, so seclusion is just like I said, it can be a very unhealthy thing. But it comes to things, it's all personal preference. You know what I mean? So for me, I do it sometimes, you know. And like I said, I just want to hit that thing face to face, figure out what's going on.
Going to the venue. You dig? What's your favorite kind of music to listen to?
Rap,
Why?
cause I like to rap. So this is Cook. It's a middle school. It's right by my house. We used to come up here a lot when we were kids. We played football and basketball and all that. And there was this is where like everybody came, like when we were younger, ride bikes and stuff. I remember a lot of crazy stuff happening here. There's a lot of fights, a lot of good times, a lot of freestyles, a lot of stuff. A lot of songs were written over on the bench that used to be over there. And yeah, we just chilled up here. A lot of kids. There was probably like 20 of us just come up here.
His school experience was like any other child's, with a few differences. He didn't really learn like the other kids, and he was always very driven and creative. He talked about one of the first times he experienced anxiety and how it affected him.
So I remember I was dating this girl, and there was just a lot going on like in my family life and stuff. And it was just weird. Like I felt something in my chest, and then like we walked over. There's another playground on the other side of the thing, like on the other side of the building, and we basically just walked over there, and I just started I just kind of broke down. I was like, I can't do this anymore, all this stuff. And that's when I kind of knew. That was probably like freshman year. I kind of like figured out that there was something off.
Yeah.
And then we just like sat over there, and I just got upset and shit. And then I came back over, and the thing with me was like I was really good at playing off like I was fine. So like I wiped my tears as I'm walking around the corner, and then nobody knew that anything had happened. And then there was, like I said, there was like 20 kids out here. There's probably like 16 of them at that time. And I walk over, and like everyone's laughing and stuff, and I just got right back in the conversation and act like nothing happened.
He was used to being the smiling, carefree kid, but he soon realized that that wasn't the case. He was a complex individual who had a different way of thinking. He remembers going to school and how difficult it was for him to pay attention, and how he would often be reprimanded for his creativity, when in all actuality, he was learning in his own way. It was also around this time that he was officially diagnosed with attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, or ADHD for short, which has seen a significant increase in diagnoses among children and young adults since the pandemic hit. He recalls his experience in school during that time and what people should take away from it.
Over fixated on like drawing this, or like, yo, what can I do to make this comic better, or something like that.
Right.
And I remember I showed one of my teachers, and she just smiled, and she was like, well, look, she was like, I'll make you a deal. She was like, if you focus in class, you don't have to take notes. She was like, but I want you to make a better comic every week, and you have to give it to me, and you can do that as your homework. And I thought that was the coolest shit ever. Like,
Who's that teacher?
it was in my middle school. Her name was Miss Vitello.
Okay.
She was like my third grade teacher, and she always like questioned. She was the one who actually asked my mom to do like the ADHD test,
Right.
to see if I had it, and I had it. But my mom didn't want me to be one of those kids that took like Adderall and shit.
Yeah.
Because she didn't want me to change. She liked the fact that I was like imaginative and stuff
Right.
like that. Where it is, but there's somewhere, and they say that ADHD is more of a gift, and it's used as like a good thing because your brain works faster. You're able to take in more information faster and put it out faster, and you're able to focus on something and make that like your only objective. And I think that's what we should do in America, because it's a lot of kids have it. You know what I mean? A lot of kids. It's one of the most diagnosed things in America, and I think that would be cool if, like, instead of being like, oh, it's a deficit, it's actually a gift.
The obstacle that everyone seemed to have the most trouble navigating around during this pandemic was simple. How do you cope? With the excessive time, the changing nature of things, the stress, there were a bunch of prospective solutions to this problem. The main ones being to focus attention on more positive things, get plenty of rest, and pick up a new hobby. But that's a lot easier said than done, and was especially difficult for people dealing with mental health problems. However, if there's one thing Jake tries to make as routine as possible in his own life, it's taking the time to help others through example. He has some lasting advice about how to cope with mental health strain and what he personally does to combat his own idleness.
Music for me is kind of different, because like I'm a very feeling person. Like I feel a lot of things. Like I I can walk into a room and I can just feel tension. You know what I mean? So like for me, music is like, if I'm listening to somebody else's music, for instance, I'm very easily able to like be in touch with how they feel during that song. Or like if I'm listening to, let's say, Juice World, on a song like Lean With Me, I can tell, like I could feel his pain in the song. You know what I mean? I could feel it. And I don't think that's anything special. I think a lot of people could probably do that. But when I do music, I like to be kind of honest with myself. You know what I mean? Like if I'm feeling sad, I'm gonna do a sad song because that's gonna help me get it out. And it does. It really does. It's like I'm taking in everything that I feel inside my head and I'm putting it on a piece of paper. And for somebody who struggles with like mental health problems, it's a very healthy coping mechanism, I guess you'd say.
This pandemic opened a lot of eyes and taught a lot of lessons, hopefully some that can be applied later on in life for anyone who made it through. But when asked what the main takeaway from this experience was, Jake had this to say.
I learned that, I guess I learned that, like, you can go through so much, you know what I mean? You can go through so much and not even know, like, the fact that you could go through it and not be, you can come out unscathed, basically. It's like, the physical awareness and the mental awareness of somebody, you have a lot more power in your mental awareness. So I would say I realized that, like, it's still there. There's still scars and shit, but like you can move past it so much
A valuable lesson
easier
indeed.